now. It's talking about if your tithe for animals or vegetables, if you have to take your tithe a great distance, then you are to convert that into money and put it in your hand, and then go to the place where Yahuwah has placed his name and convert it back into food or animals, and then offer that. And it was there to feed. You notice the word, it's there for the food, the storehouse, to feed the poor, the fatherless, and the widow, and the Levite, or the Levitical priest, because they had no sustenance other than that. They relied on the tithe. But you see now, today, it's all about money, and it's only about building giant, huge buildings. Now, I have a building too, but I don't want to tithe. I have to have support. If I didn't have support, I'd be out there on the street. But I do have a facility that I must have help with. But they're offerings. They're just like a few women would support Yahushua's ministry. It was just a few women that were wealthy that stepped up, and they supported his ministry. He didn't take up a collection from 5,000 people every time they got together. Rather, he was feeding them, literally with food and with his words. But when we feed the sheep around the world, the work that his ministers do, sometimes there's someone that will help and support us when we do that work. But that's not a tithe. The tithe is exclusively to be given to the Levitical priesthood, and that would be redistributed. And, of course, in the case of Acts chapter 4, we see that the apostles, or the emissaries that were sent, they would receive from time to time. Not every week or every month or any schedule. From time to time, someone would sell a bit of property, and whatever they wanted to give from the proceeds, they would come and lay it at the apostles' feet. And that's, of course, a metaphor, meaning it would be put there in their safekeeping to be redistributed to those that were in need. Okay, and that was because they had to feed the widows and the fatherless and others, and even elders that were older that couldn't maybe work anymore, and they were given a double portion. The elders were given, and they were seated there every day. There was a daily dispensing of food. So once again, we have an example of food being shown to be, and fasting is also related to that, because what a real fast is, according to Isaiah or Yeshayahu chapter 8, a true fast is food that you would otherwise be using for yourself to be given over to someone who really needs it desperately. And of course, when we see the needy and the hungry in our midst, in our environment, then we should give to them. Sometimes these groceries have food barrels in the grocery, and you can throw some packaged food in there that's got some longevity to it, like canned food and things like that, that you can contribute that way to your community, to needy families. I mean, these are people that are in desperate straits, and we should do that. And I think, I can't remember exactly where it is in the book of Acts, but Shaul talked about taking up a collection, and it was no doubt food items, but they were being collected on the first day of the week, so that they would be stored up, and then he could take it to Jerusalem for the saints, or the Kodashim, that were in need there, because there was a famine. And the famine was not enabling them to buy anything. It was, if they loaded up a big cart full of money, that wouldn't have helped these people, because they were starving. So it had to have been food that he had to carry back. And he even asked for assistance. He said, I need some volunteers to help me carry this load back to Jerusalem. So if they came with their arms and filled with bags of money, these people in Jerusalem would say, wait a minute, what's this money? We can't eat that. There's a famine here, We can't buy anything. Even if we had money, he was bringing food back there. And based upon that situation, Christianity has induced people into the stronghold of thinking that, you've got to pass the plate every single week, and, on the first day of the week, too. It's just amazing how this stuff misapplied and in people's minds, and then from forever, sometimes for decades, they're locked in that fortress or that thinking, that stronghold of the idea that they're giving to this one individual person in order to get the gospel into the world. And that's not at all what Shaul was doing. He was actually he said that we were the written letter. Our lives are the letter, the message, and not the idea of some kind of payment that needed to be made to spread the gospel. See, the gospel is actually the message of the kingdom, and it's involved. It has to involve the covenant, and of course, it involves Yahusha too. See, it isn't just limited to John chapter 3, verse 16. It isn't just that. It's that too, but it's much more than that. You can believe, but you have to also obey.
Can you explain the distinction between Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh? I've seen all three written.
Yeah.
Can you sort this out?
Let me do that.
Please.
Let me start with 3 letters.
And then I also want you to explain how this relates to Elohim, because this is also another part that's very confusing for people.
Yes, it is. The word that we have been neglected, or that's been held from us in our translations, is the name of the Creator. Let's go to Psalm 23. It says, Yahuwah is my shepherd, okay? It says Yahuwah Ro. Yahuwah Ro is 2 words, but they translate it Yahuwah my shepherd, or is my shepherd. Now, Yahuwah is the name. It's a personal name, and it's used more than any other single word by far. If you go to a concordance and look up the word Lord, you see that there's dozens of pages of fine print in triple columns where this name, Yahuwah, has been basically destroyed with this word Lord, which actually, oddly enough, means B-A-A-L in Hebrew. Or if you look up the word B-A-A-L in a dictionary, you'll see it means Lord. And that happened to be a pagan deity. But that being understood, the name being restored is 3 letters, written as 4 letters, because one of them is repeated. You've got a yod or a yod and a hey, which is the 5th letter, and then you've got the ua, or what they call a wa, which is the 6th letter, and then you've got another hey. So you've got yod, hey, ua, hey. Now, in the word Yehuda, which is the name of the man that's the son of Yaakov or Jacob, Jacob's son, Yehuda, they call him Judah. Well, his name wasn't Judah, his name was Yehuda. It's spelled Yod, Hey, Ua, Daleth, Hey. The same 4 letters with a 5th letter, Daleth, inserted just before the last Hey. If you can say Yehuda, then just take out the sound of the D like you would a note out of music, and you're left with Yahuwah. We know that. But what we have to understand is that the shape, if we look at the shape of the letter, the 3rd letter is the most mysterious one. The 1st letter is equivalent to our letter Y, and the 2nd letter is equivalent to our letter H, like Yah. When we say Hallelujah, we're hearing the name in a shortened form, Yah. And Psalm 68 uses the same short form, Esteem him by his name, Yah, And the King James uses a J, but the J is less than 500 years old, and it really was a Yod, Anyway, the name Yahuwah is within the name Yahusha, because the name, the first 3 letters are identical. It's the ending that's changed. The ending of Yahusha is just a Shin Ayin. Now, that's based upon a root Yasha. The root Yasha means deliverance, and by extension, salvation. And that can also be true of the word Shua. Now, Shua, you hear in the name Joshua. Well, his name wasn't really so much always that way. It wasn't ever written Joshua, except in the translations. It was really written